Because even a wealthy country can face crisis if it cannot meet short-term payments. In the previous episode, we explored cash flow in business and how companies can appear profitable yet still collapse when cash stops moving. Today, we shift perspective again. Because there is one organization larger than any company: the state, the government. Governments manage hospitals, schools, infrastructure, security and social systems. And all of this depends on one quiet force: cash flow. Not ideology, not long-term plans, but the simple question: can the government meet its obligations on time? Countries rarely fail suddenly because of total debt. They fail when liquidity disappears, when salaries cannot be paid, when suppliers stop delivering, when confidence in payment fades. Political stability, more than anything, depends on continuous cash movement. For a government, cash flow is the timing difference between revenue and obligation. Revenue arrives mainly through taxes, duties, state income, but obligations occur every day. Public salaries, pensions, healthcare payments, infrastructure costs, debt servicing. And just like a business, the state must ensure that money arrives before it's needed. And this is why governments track liquidity constantly. Not just yearly budgets, but daily treasury balances. Because even a wealthy country can face crisis if it cannot meet short-term payments. One of the biggest hidden realities in public finance is that tax collection and public spending do not align perfectly in time. Taxes often arrive monthly, quarterly or annually, so per month, per quarter or per year. But spending is actually continuous, every day. Teachers must be paid every month. Hospitals must operate every day. Infrastructure projects must continue without interruption, and they need money. This creates a timing gap. Even when actual tax revenue is sufficient, short-term cash shortages can still appear. From a political perspective, managing this gap is one of the most critical responsibilities of the state, because citizens experience disruption immediately, not at the end of the fiscal year. And this is where borrowing becomes essential. Governments do not borrow only for long-term investment, they also borrow to maintain short-term liquidity. In simple terms, borrowing ensures that payments continue without interruption even when tax timing is uneven. This is not unusual, it's normal in modern public finance. Just as businesses use credit lines to manage operations, governments use financial markets to stabilize liquidity. The key question is not whether a country borrows, but whether it can continue borrowing at stable conditions. That depends on trust. Cash flow is deeply connected to political stability. When governments pay on time, systems feel reliable. Salaries arrive, services function, and confidence holds. But when payments delay, instability begins quietly. Suppliers demand guarantees, workers lose trust, citizens feel uncertainty. Political crisis often begins not with ideology, but with interrupted cash flow. History shows that financial breakdown quietly precedes social and political tension, because daily life depends on continuous liquidity. During economic crisis, cash flow becomes the central battlefield of policy. Governments and central banks act to inject liquidity, stabilize banking systems, support wages and businesses, not only to protect the economy, but to protect confidence. Confidence determines whether investors keep lending, whether citizens keep spending, and whether the currency retains value. When confidence breaks, cash stops circulating. And when circulation stops, the entire system slows. And this is why crisis policy focuses first on keeping money moving. Strong states treat liquidity as a discipline, not an emergency reaction. They maintain reserves, diversified funding sources, predictable cash systems, because stability in cash flow creates stability in society. And from a political perspective, the quiet success of a government is rarely visible in speeches or law. It is visible in something simpler. Nothing breaks, salaries arrive, service continue, confidence remains calm. And that quiet continuity is the true sign of functioning public finance. So from a political perspective, cash flow is not a technical detail. It's the foundation of state stability. Debt matters, policy matters, but without liquidity, none of them function. In the next and final episode of this series, we step into the economic perspective, where cash flow determines growth, recession, and the rhythm of entire economies. Thanks for watching. My name is Remco Coerman and this is the Coerman class, Finance and Business School, sponsored by Epic Edges. See you in the next episode.